Good day, I am Shara Krishna Tabella, and for today's lesson, we are going to discuss wages. Here are our objectives for this discussion. First is to define wages. Second is to identify the types of wages and differentiate each. Third is to enumerate the determinants of wages. Talking about wages, what really is wages? So we have here our definition. Wages are reward paid to the worker for his labor. The term labor, as used in economics, has a broad meaning. It includes the work of all who work for a living, whether this work includes physical or mental. In fact, labor in economics means all kind of work for which a reward is paid. Any type of reward for human exertion, whether paid by hour, day, month, or year, and paid in cash, kind, or both, is called wages. According to Benham, a wage may be defined as a sum of money paid under contract by an employer to a worker for services rendered. It is essentially a price for a particular commodity and labor services. In short, when we say about wages, this is the monetary compensation that we get in exchange for our labor or for the work that we have done. So we have here the different types of wages. The first one is salary. Salaries refer to a set of amounts of money that employers pay their employees annually. They typically spread payments throughout the year to equal the annual amount agreed to employment contracts. When we say salary, these are the monetary compensation that happens every after 12 months because it says annually here. So the pay is what was agreed based on the employment contract. And when we say hourly wage, so from the word itself hourly wage, we are referring to a type of wage where employers pay employees by the hour. This is common type of wage for part-time employment and sometimes full-time employment. Some jobs that offer hourly wages include jobs in retail, healthcare assistance, sales, or construction. Apply kini siya sa mga trabaho sama sa gawas. Like when they are trying to persuade us nga mo work sa gawas because kada oras ang sweldo. Labi na sa healthcare, nindot ko no kayo ang sweldo kay assign sa dako siya in oras and you could have your time. Kay kung pila yung gusto nga oras, that's up to you. And if you want to take your overtime, pwede sad. And it's a big deal. Because when you get your time, nga mupadako sa dimong sweldo. From the word itself, hourly, meaning in oras ang sweldo. And next, we have commissions. A commission is a type of wage typically offered to sales professionals by their employers. Employers offer commission in addition to hourly pay or salaries. It allows employees to earn a portion of money from each sale they make. So when we say commissions, mauni ang makuha sa nagbaligya sa iyang ibaligya nga product. For example, gibabaligya siya og ice candy. Sa kada isa ka ice candy, naa siya piso. Ang ice candy tag 5 man. If makahalin siya 50 ka buok ice candy sa tag 5, doon na siya piso kada isa. So sa 50 ka ice candy, doon na siya 50 pesos pod. Instead of returning the cash nga 250, which is 50 times 5, kaya 5 man ang ice candy, iyang i-return kay 200 na lang. Kay nasa iyang 50, which is what we call commission. So that is what commission means. The next one is the fair wage. When we say fair wage, that is the above minimum wage and below the living wage. A fair wage refers to an acceptable wage for employers to offer to their employees. It considers factors like cost of living in a particular area and typical wages for a job position. Fair wages usually act as a midway point for minimum wage and living wage. So that's what we call fair because dili siya tantong mubo o dili sad siya tantong taas. Kana lang bang insakto lang. And the fifth one is overtime. Overtime is when employees receive overtime wages for any work they complete that exceeds 40 hours per week Overtime pay typically includes double the average earnings an employee would receive during a 40-hour work week. So from the word itself, overtime, we are very familiar. So it means surpassing on the time allotted. And of course, when you surpass the time given as your work requirement, tagansad kag exact amount or exact compensation for the time that you exceeded. The next one is severance pay. Severance pay refers to a type of wage that employers pay to employees they have to let go. The amount of severance pay an employee receives usually coincides with the number of years they have worked at the company. So basically, severance pay is a term for separation pay. Mao na ang ihatag nga pay when you tend to leave the company. Bisan pa sa imo pagpahawa na gihapon kayo nga baton ng kwarta. Kay kanang kwarta magamit na nimo most likely when you plan to transition to the other company. The amount of money in your severance pay kay magdepende sa na if sa kakadugay sa company. Next one is prevailing wage. When we say prevailing wage, that is a type of wage employers typically use in government contracting between government agencies and outside businesses. In this situation, the U.S. Department of Labor has a variety of data to help determine recommended payments for contractual workers. It is important to understand this prevailing wage may differ depending on the state in which a profession works contractually with the government. So, prevailing wage kay mao ni siya ang average wage. For example, sa Middle East, demand kaayo ang mga medical workers. So, when we say prevailing wage, kung sa to'y sweldo sa nursing dito, mausad na ang sweldo sa mga nursing nga they are going to obtain in the Philippines. If ever mag-canvas sila tungod kay nagkuwang ang mga nursing dito, the prevailing wage would depend on the state o kung unsa ka kinahanglanon ang gitawag nato nga trabaho. Kay doon na may mga nasod nga nanginahanglan ana and they offer a huge amount of money. And there is also a state where that certain job has a less demand and too much supply. So that is why a prevailing wage is not a promising huge amount of money. Next, we have living wage. When we say living wage, this refers to the least amount of money an employer can offer to an employee. Living wage is different from minimum wage because employers don't have to follow legal guidelines like they would offer minimum wage to employees. So the living wage, ang purpose ani is just to sustain the needs or the necessities in the family. So it does not matter if naatay gituwag nga bare minimum because as long as it sustained your needs, okay, pwede ra na maura na isuldo. Kay it is not mandated by the legislation. Unlike sa minimum wage, it refers to a set hourly rate decided upon the U.S. Department of Labor. This figure varies depending on the state the individual works in. So, technically speaking, if ang living wage kay nakadepende sa employers kung pila mo ang ihatag sa imuha, ang minimum wage kay no. Because minimum wage is mandated by legislation, it is under the law that a minimum wage of that certain area should be followed. For example, ang minimum wage sa Bantayan kay 376 per day. And very gamay lang. And you might wonder why the city has a higher minimum wage kaysa sa province. So let me tell you. Minimum wage determined by factors such as poverty rate, prevailing wage rates as determined by the labor force survey, and socioeconomic indicators such as employment figures, gross regional domestic product, among others, which ensures better worker protection. So, ang minimum wage nakadepende kung asa ta nakasettle. Basically, maong dako ang minimum wage sa city kay labi na sa Manila kay tanan man jud butang paliton, whereas sa province nga pwede ra makakita and sometimes libre pa or barato, which is very accessible. That is why. And also, it depends on the regional gross domestic income. Kay if better dako ang sweldo, and if not, gamay ra ang sweldo. Mao na gitawag nga kana bitaw mga umuunlad na lugar. Diha ang nindot sa mo trabaho kay meaning dagko ang sweldo. The 10th type of wage is bonuses. Bonuses refers to cash compensation an employer provides to an employee for producing good work. Bonuses don't factor into salaries or hourly earnings and aren't guaranteed by employees. This type of wage usually acts as an incentive for employees to reach a certain level of productivity. These types of roles typically have a chance to earn bonuses. So, I know that you know what bonuses means, and you did or your brothers did receive bonuses on Christmas, on their Christmas leave. It is provided by the employer and it does not necessitate to be dependent on your hourly earnings. It is just a payback for the good work that you have done in that certain company. And the 11th type, or the last one, we have paid time off or PTO. Paid time off or PTO is a form of an accrued wage that allows employees to earn paid time off for each day, week, or other set of time figure they work. For example, for each employee that works a full week, they receive 8 hours of PTO. Ang kanina taning paid time off, kay ma-comply nimo kana witang wa kay absent or ma-comply nimo kanang ilang required nga working time. Even if mo leave ka, nagyapon kay sweldo. So that is what we call paid time off. Now we have top 8 factors influencing determination of wage rates. Just so you know that the wage rates are not the same because there are lots of factors affecting them. First one is ability to pay. Of course, the company that you're working with have something to do on the wage rates. Okay, if your company is flourishing and growing, that means that they are able to pay higher rates to the employees. However, when the company is on the downfall, near to bankruptcy, meaning they weren't able to pay as high as they can, that's why they will do some termination. They will terminate the workers because they can no longer hold the expense in labor. The second type is demand and supply. I know that you have heard this in our economics classes. It is very relevant and is very common also here in wage determination. Why? As what I have said earlier, there are states that would ask for that certain kind of work, no, which means in demand. And kapag in demand ang work, niya gamay lang ang supply, that means that taas ang sweldo. But if dili demand ang work, then damo kayo ang candidates for that certain work. Then those candidates are forced to work with that low amount of wages. The third one is prevailing market rates. And the fourth one is cost of living. Cost of living, the wage rates are directly influenced by cost of living of a place. The workers will accept a wage which may ensure them a minimum standard of living. Wages will also be adjusted according to price index number. The increase in price will erode the purchasing power of workers and they will demand higher wages. When prices are stable, then frequent wage increases may not be required. For the fifth one, we have bargaining of trade unions. So when we say bargaining of trade unions, the stronger the trade union is, the higher will be the wage rates. If ang trade union of that certain job kay hinay, meaning gamay sa dilang wage rate. For example, pag pandemic, 'di ba? Demand kayong mga nurses or mga health workers. So strong ang trade union para sa mga medical personnel. So therefore, dagko ilang sweldo. Not necessarily dagko, but there is a raise in their salary. And the strength of a trade union is judged by its membership, financial position, and type of leadership. So the sixth one is productivity. Workers may also be offered additional bonus, etc. if productivity increase beyond a certain level. If you as a working person is very productive in your work, don't you worry because there's an equal compensation that will be given to you because of a job well done. So basically, what your performance is will determine the money that you will be having. 7 is government regulations. When we say government regulations, it is the government taking part on the wage rates, like the minimum wage. It is mandated by the legislation. For example, in India, Minimum Wage Act 1948 was passed to empower government to fix the minimum wages of workers. Similarly, many other important legislation passed by government to help improve the wage structure. The best thing why government meddle in regulating the wage rates kay doon naman joy mga employers nga abusado. So instead of paying the exact amount, kay ila pa ng ibanan na adunay mga hidden charges. And I believe that government did a very good job when they mandated it in the law in order to protect the welfare of our employees. So doon na tayo gitawag nga minimum wage. So mao ta kong giingon kung bisag unsa pa ang trabaho, either mag-cashier ka or sales lady ka. If that is the minimum wage in that particular area, mao ra jud na imong mabaton. And lastly, we have cost of training. In determining the wage of the workers in different occupations, allowance must be made for all the exercise incurred on training and time devoted for it. I guess that's all for today. Thank you so much for listening. Here are my references. Have a good day.